If you clicked on this video, then you're in the same position I was about 2 years ago. How do I get a 95 plus ATAR if I'm in a public school? Hey guys, it's Alex, and today I'm going to be going over some tips and tricks that I use for myself to get an ATAR of 98.7 in a public school. Before we get started, I want to first explain some background knowledge that you should have about the HSC and how the ATAR works in general, because I would have really appreciated to know these kind of things before I started, and it was not until the very end that I actually found out how everything works. So let's go over what the ATAR is. Okay, so your ATAR is a rank. That is very important. That is a rank. It is not a mark, it is just a rank, and you need to know that it is you being compared to the rest of the state. The number is the percentile you're in. So if you get an ATAR of 80%, if you get an ATAR of 80, that means you're in the top 20%. If you get an ATAR of 70, you're in the top 30%. And if it's 95, then you're in the top 5%, and so on. And you can kind of get the gist of that. What is the average ATAR? You think that the average ATAR is 50, right? Because you're in the top 50 percentile, which is the average. No, actually what happens is the average ATAR is around 70. So that is your average ATAR. Why is that the case? Well, if you think about it, the people who actually stay behind for HSC, so students who are relatively motivated to complete their academic journey, would probably put a little bit more effort than people who didn't. And therefore, with the way they rank things, everyone is kind of bumped up because everyone's trying at least relatively hard to get a high ATAR, and that's why the average is 70. One big misconception that people have is that your marks are similarly correlated with your ATAR. Now, I was in the HSC discussion group of 2020 on Facebook, and after everyone was getting their ATARs, you see a lot of people complaining and being very upset that even though their marks for their subjects may have been in the 80s, maybe even in the mid 80s, 70s, in that range, when they got their ATAR, it was actually around 60 to 70, which is not great to their expectations. How does this happen? Well, as I said before, it is a rank. Your ATAR is a rank, and it's how well you performed compared to the rest of the state. If you chose subjects that are easy, and you also got an average mark, then you're not going to be ranked very well compared to the rest of the state, and that's just how it is. Now you have a brief understanding of what the ATAR is. If you want more in-depth information about how it's calculated and things like that, just search it up online and UAC will be able to explain it to you much better than I will. But let's move on to HSC marks and how they work. Most of us know that there is your internal marks and your external marks and your assessment mark and your exam mark, and it's all very confusing, but everyone's saying, your rank matters, right? Here's how that works. When you take an exam, let's say this is the final HSC exam. So exam for the HSC, that's the final exam you're sitting. We have a pool of results, which is basically just all the results gathered from everyone in your cohort who did that subject. Let's say the scores were 98, 80, 70, 60, 60, and 50. For example, that's the pool of results sorted in sorted from highest to lowest. Now what they do is they do exactly that. They sort it from highest to lowest, and then they sort it to whoever got which mark. So let's say student A, this is student A, he actually scored 80%, and student B scored 98%. Okay? Student A, throughout their entire school internals, so the assessments and the internal rankings, they ranked first place. And student B ranked second. Now what's going to happen is student A gets the average mark of the highest mark, because that's that first mark right there. And he also gets his actual mark that he earned in the exam, and he gets the average of those two scores. So his mark is 98 plus 80 divided by 2, which equals 85. So that is a band 5 mark right there. Now student B on the other hand, even though they came second, they smashed that exam, and so their mark is the same. They will also get 98 plus 80 divided by 2, which is also equal to 85, and that's a band 5. So as you can see, internals do matter, but the actual mark you get for your internal assessments doesn't matter. If every single person in your cohort is getting, let's give an extreme example, they're all getting 30s and 20s, and you just get 50%, you're first. And that's all that matters, and it won't affect your final actual mark. It's just for your rank, not for your mark. What this example also shows is that if you're ranked second so far in your cohort, it doesn't mean it's too late and you can't get the best mark possible. From this example that I've just shown you, it is very, very possible to get the highest mark in your cohort. You will most likely tie in a situation where you really smash the HSC exam, because the person in first place is probably going to get either the first or second highest mark anyway. So you do have that possibility of getting the highest mark, which is the same as the person in first rank. One extra thing I want to mention about your HSC results is that 10 units will be counted towards your ATAR, and they will pick the highest 10 units. So if you did 12 units, then your worst 2 units will not be included, and that's great. Unless it's English, it's still included. Okay, let's move over now to subject selection. Subject selection, in my opinion, is quite important. Most people say that it's not important and just pick the ones that you enjoy. I agree with that to a certain extent. For subject selection, you want to meet these following criteria that I have kind of built up as a little guideline for you. Choose your prerequisites first. So number 1, prerequisites. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, prerequisite, oh, I spelled it wrong. Prerequisites are anything you would need for your uni course. If you don't know what uni course you're going into, this will be a little more tricky for you, but you can still use this tip and apply it to your own learning. Many uni courses have prerequisites, like for example, if you want to take an engineering degree or a chemical engineering degree, something like that, you will obviously need chemistry and you'll need maths, maybe extension 1 or extension 2, depending on what degree it is. And so you want to pick those subjects first, and that is very important. If you don't pick this, well then, it doesn't matter if you get the ATAR or not, you're not going to be able to keep up or even get into the uni degree that you want. The safest thing for you to at least include once into your subject selection is the iSTEM subjects, because most of these uni degrees with prerequisites will ask you to have some kind of experience or have done the subject in one of the iSTEM areas, whether that be maths or engineering, something like that, something in the sciences. My second piece of advice is to choose English Advanced. English is mandatory for everyone and it will count towards your ATAR. So in my personal opinion, I think you should choose English Advanced over Standard, because from what I see, Advanced is not actually that much extra work compared to Standard. You still have to write essays, you still have to write the multiple extended responses in those exams, which in my opinion doesn't matter if you're in Standard or Advanced. It's annoying either way, so you may as well do the harder subject for the potentially better results. My final and probably most optional option for you in subject selection is to choose bludge subjects. What do I mean by bludge subjects? So I want you to choose about 1 to 2 subjects where you know you're good at them. Like either you enjoy doing it, or you'll be able to get that band 6, that easy high mark. Just pick those. It's easy on yourself, you get a break when you're in that class, and if you're a person who works consistently, it will probably be one of those major work subjects, because you're just consistently working towards one goal, and in my opinion, it's a lot less stressful if you're working consistently. My next tip for preparing for the HSC is to have a goal ATAR in mind. Now, if you clicked on this video, obviously you want something, 95 or above, but what I mean is a specific goal. Like, do you want 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 99.95? Like, what do you actually want? Because when you get up in the higher numbers in the ATARs, there's actually a big difference between each other. So for me, I aimed to get a 97.5 ATAR because I wanted to get into the actuarial course. And so I worked hard enough for me to achieve that, but not too hard where I'm overworking myself and putting in effort that I could otherwise be spending on, socializing or extracurricular activities or doing whatever the heck I want. Now we get to the most important piece of advice that I will give you. Make a study plan. This is so important. Very, 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 very important. Why are study plans so important? Well, number one, you hold yourself accountable for your study and you make sure you get your work done. And number two, which I think is the more important part, it's so relieving for your mental health. If you're someone who wants to get an ATAR of 95 plus, I'm sure you're already a very capable and academic student who cares about your education. If you're one of those people, then you know what I mean when I say you feel guilt when you're not studying. Having guilt in your free time is the worst feeling ever because you're not really studying and being productive in that time, and you're not really enjoying yourself in your freedom that you've given yourself productively, which kind of doesn't make sense, but you're not playing hard. That's what I'm saying. Making a study plan kind of allows you to put that responsibility of I should be studying onto a document or a piece of paper or whatever, however you make this study plan. It just puts all that responsibility there and you can relieve yourself and just enjoy your free time whenever you give it to yourself. So how do you plan your study plan? I'll give you an example of one day and you can pretty much apply this to every single day. So let's take Monday, for example. If this is a day where you go to school, then block in the time where you have to go to school. So let's say, for example, you start school at 9 a.m. and you finish at, let's say, 3 p.m. Okay, that's around the average time range for most high schools. Anyway, and then after that, you want to block in your extracurricular activities and non-school activities that you have to go to. This can be sports, job, or anything of that nature. So let's say, for example, after school, I have to go to the gym from 4 till 5. I go into the gym for an hour. So let's block that in at 4 till 5. Now you've blocked these kind of periods in, you want to kind of give yourself some relaxation time. And I'll recommend, let's say an hour of just doing nothing every day. And I will put it into the time before bed. So let's say from 9 to 10. So from 9 to 10, I don't do anything and I can just, scroll on Instagram, be unproductive and be lazy and, just do whatever the heck I want. After you've blocked all of these kind of important parts in, then put in study time. How much do you have? Well, let's take a look at this example here. I have quite a large chunk of time free from 5 till 9. That's about 4 hours. I will say, let's round it up, right? I'll say 3 hours. A chunk of 3 hours will be dedicated to studying. And I will do that from 6 till 9. Now that you've generally kind of made this plan for yourself for one day, you apply that every single day, week by week, and things like that, you will be able to block in all of your important events like school and work and gym and things like that. And you also have a little bit of extra relaxation time for you to kind of calm down and re-energize for the upcoming day, as well as having a dedicated study time. Obviously, not everyone will have a simple routine like the one I just made down here. You may have more commitments and things like that, and this is where you'll have to sacrifice things. You may need to sacrifice that relaxation time for more study time, or if you're working a lot of hours, then you need to ask yourself what's more important to you, making the money now or getting that high ATAR, and compromise and decide for yourself. Okay, so what do we actually do in that study time zone? For one particular day, I recommend picking 3 subjects. Most people will have 6 subjects. If you're doing more than that, then take this with a grain of salt. But I recommend picking 3 subjects to study and focus on in one particular day and kind of rotating them. So 3 on Monday and then the other 3 the next day on Tuesday. So what you want to do is to list out your subjects in terms of like 2 unit by 2 unit, 2 unit. So here I have extension maths 1 and 2, chem, English advanced, legal, bio, and visual arts. So what I've done is I have kind of organized them hypothetically from most difficult to least difficult. What you want to do is for each day, as I was saying, which you want to only do 3 subjects a day, is pick one hard subject. So let's say we're going to pick maths, both maths, and then you want to pick legal, let's say, a medium kind of subject, and then I'm going to pick visual arts, the easy subject, bludge subject. So for these 3 subjects, that's what you're going to be studying on one particular day, and then the next day you'll be studying chem, English advanced, and biology. By breaking it down into hard, medium, and easy, you kind of give yourself this, this kind of break in between each session. So you should structure it as study your hardest subject first, then your medium, and then your easiest. Time allocations for this should be starting off 40 minutes, 30 minutes, and then 20 minutes. You might be thinking to yourself, well, that's not that much study. What if I have assessments? Yeah, don't worry. That's how you start off at the very beginning where there's no assessments yet. What you're gonna do is add progressive overload, a training term, to your actual study plan. So it might seem kind of stupid, but I'm basically applying the same principles it takes for you to get stronger and build muscle into your study. What you're basically going to do is start off very light and easy, kind of ease yourself in, and week by week, you're going to increase that time from 40 to 45, or maybe even 50 to an hour and 10, and so on in about 5-week to 6-week chunks, depending on when your first assessment is and when assessments are due. What's going to happen is you're going to be building up study time over the weeks, and it's going to get to a point where it's so extensive, and by looking at it on paper, you're like, how the heck am I going to study like 3.5 hours every day? That is insane. Well, that's going to be when you're leading up to an exam, and your brain is going to let you do that because you don't want to fail that exam. Once you have finished the exam, then you take a deload, which you reduce your minutes, all of these, into only about 20 minutes each subject because you've finished. And now you can let yourself, go easy. It's really simple and really chill, and you kind of build yourself back up again until the next assessment, and you rinse and you repeat. Obviously, you are not going to be able to perfectly do this for every subject, as not every single subject have exams on the exact same week. What you have to do is moderate, obviously self-moderate, depending on which subjects you have and which subjects are coming up. Moderate the overload and the deload respectively, so that the high amount of study is happening right before the exam, and then once you finish the exam, you can go right back down and deload and chill and build your way back up. One thing I do have to say is make sure you have dedicated days off. No one can study all the time. You need to give yourself a break, whether that be only 1 day or 2 days. Maybe you take the weekend off, or maybe you take a particular day of the week off. Give yourself days off from studying, because no one can study that hard for that long and that consistently. If you can, more power to you, but for the 99.99% of us who are normal people, that's impossible. My next piece of advice is, I've kind of already covered this, is to take breaks, and also never take breaks. Now, what the heck does that mean? That's literally the opposite of what you just said in the first half. Let me break this down. First part, take breaks. What does that mean? Well, please allocate breaks into your days. Have times where you study, and then give yourself times to take breaks and relax and socialize. And also, as I just mentioned, take dedicated days off to relax and have fun. You're still young, you're in your teen years, probably, in my opinion, some of the best years of your life. So really go out there and experience and take those breaks off. What do I mean when I say never ever take breaks? don't take a break from your plan. Don't go off course, stick with that study plan. In the beginning, you'll be very motivated, and it's really easy for you to kind of go onto a plan and stick to it. Once you do it week by week, maybe 2 months, you'll kind of make it into a habit. And it's really, really easy to maintain that state of discipline and studiousness. However, what's difficult is, let's say you finish an exam and you're like, all right, cool, I'm not doing anything anymore. I'm gonna take this whole week or maybe this week and next week off and do zero studying. It is a lot harder to force yourself to go back onto that, I guess, motivation train and be consistent and go back into that habit. It's a lot harder to do that. Trust me, I've done it before, and it was a lot easier for me if I just stuck with the plan the whole time. If you think about it more broadly, when someone says never take breaks from your study plan, that might seem kind of harsh and unsustainable, but because I have talked about the importance of putting in allocated breaks and things like that, it actually is very sustainable and you can still enjoy yourself whilst making great progress. My next piece of advice is to not waste time. Now, what do I mean by that? When I say don't waste time, I mean when you're studying in those allocated time periods, sometimes you will have moments where you literally just don't know what to do. For example, you might have a project that you have to work on, or you have, let's say if you were doing society and culture, you have your PIP to work on. And in that allocated time, you're just kind of staring on that piece of paper or that screen and you just don't know what to do. Just stop doing it. Just skip it. Write down the questions you have, things you don't understand. If it's everything that you don't understand, that's fine. Just say everything and then save those questions for the next time you see your teacher and ask them and resolve the problem. Sitting there staring at a blank piece of paper or a blank screen is just going to waste time, stress you out, and frankly, that time can be much more productively spent studying a different subject. On the other hand, sometimes you might have subjects where you're really in the zone and you know exactly what you're going to do, so you run out of time before you can finish what you wanted to accomplish. That's fine, just spend a little more time. If you want to do it, that's perfect. Like, I'm not stopping you from studying more if you want to, like that's great. Let's get a little bit into how to study. If you look online, the best way to study is through active recall and spaced repetition. That is completely accurate. Spaced repetition basically is the process of making yourself remember something long term by exposing yourself to that particular thing every now and again with breaks in between. Because our brains do a lot better job of really rooting those ideas and new things that you learn into your memory if you do it every now and then consistently over a period of time. This is why cramming all of your knowledge in one night leads you to basically forget everything the week after. The second part is active recall. What does that mean? In simple terms, it just means to test yourself. The best way to study is to test yourself. Now, I'm sure if you asked all of the people who get 95 plus ATARs in the past, pretty much all of them will tell you that leading up to the exams, what they do to study is to do exams. Because what better method of preparing for an exam than doing an exam? For maths, you'll be doing maths exams. For English, you'll be writing essays. For chemistry, you'll be doing chemistry. Putting your knowledge to practice is the most important part. And that active recall just means that you're recalling the information you've learned, not open book, from your brain, just like how you would in an exam. On the broader scope of things, what you want to do is to make your notes and learn those deep concepts about the subjects you're doing, and then move on later to doing exams. Because anything else that you might not know, you'll just learn as you do the exams. You'll look at the answer, you'll be like, okay, and then it'll stick with you, do it over and over again, and you will learn it in no time. And now my final piece of advice is be realistic. Be realistic with your goals. If you are watching this video, your goal is to get an ATAR of 95 or higher. Now, if you've been a student in the past who have been getting low marks below 50, maybe even failing classes all the time, then it's kind of unrealistic for you to expect yourself to get all band 6s and get that high ATAR. Please be realistic. If you don't get the results you want, that you've really set your mind to, that can destroy your motivation and ruin your progress. Be realistic and set achievable goals for you. You know yourself the best, and I can't say what your results should be, only you can do that. And always remember, if you don't get the ATAR that you need for that course, There's always multiple pathways, there's early entry, there's transferring courses, and there's a multitude of opportunities for you to get into your dream course. At the end of the day, your ATAR does not define you. So just work hard and try and get the best results that you can. So I hope my piece of advice can be helpful to you in some way. If you have any questions or concerns, leave a comment down below. If this is helpful, subscribe if you want, and I'll make more videos in the future. I'll see you next time.